Hi everyone, my name is Charlie and today I'm going to be talking about nothing in particular. This is a true return to form in that I have nothing to talk about today. I doubt whether I'll talk about books or writing or any of those shenanigans, but I'm here. I have a cup of tea. I've only been awake for an hour and I thought that that was the perfect time in which to show off a new jumper. Basically, I went onto a certain website a few months back to acquire some summer clothes and came away with autumnal winter clothes. And it was at this strange time where I was having a tendency towards liking a few weird patterns. And so I'm just not sure that pastel shades are for me, but I bought it, so it's new jumper day. And I won't lie, I feel like I look like Esther Ranson in the 1990s, some sort of mid-morning, early afternoon TV show host who's going to talk to people about the hot topic issues of the day, but in a jumper like this to be amenable to our middle class viewers. Also, yes, I suppose I ought to apologise to Nikki of I read past my bedtime for I have cut my hair. Well, actually I got my mother to do it and it ended up being somewhat more successful than I had anticipated. Basically, I do not want to go back to the hairdressers anytime soon. I don't have a problem with them. It's nothing monetary wise. It is simply because they could be doing everything under the sun to make people feel safe, but it still wouldn't be enough for me. And that's the type of person I've turned into. I have yet to venture into a supermarket and haven't done so since March, nor have I set foot into any other shop. And I understand that when I'm having deliveries to my house, they are still being handled by a person, but for some reason, I feel like it minimises my exposure. I said to my mother, do you fancy cutting my hair? And after I recorded those few videos that went online last week, I went downstairs and I said, right, you're going to do this bit, you're going to do this bit, then you're going to do this bit, then you're going to do this bit. Proper coached her on what I wanted, and this is what I ended up with. And basically, as with when she used to cut my hair, we reach a point where we just say, do you know what? It'll do. So, this is a haircut. That'll do. I have been off work for the last week. I usually like to take advantage of the August bank holiday. I finished work on Monday and then haven't been in, and I won't be in until this Friday. And usually I reach this point where I'm thinking, yes, I feel rested, I feel well enough to go back to work, but that never seems to happen this year. It's felt more like an imposition on my time. It's not to do with the people there, because I feel like we're all close at the shop I am. We're very lucky of that. Anything that isn't reading or writing this year has felt like it's getting in the way. Either way, in terms of writing, I originally, so the Monday that I finished work, I'd planned to do this next 10 days as a writing vlog. And so I recorded a clip on Monday talking about all the writing that I'd been doing over the previous 4 days, including another secret project. Was very enthusiastic on Monday morning about knuckling down and getting some writing done, and I'd forgotten one vital aspect: my notebook. But where is it? It's downstairs. But the notebook that I've been writing in is now full, which to me always feels like a landmark when writing something, that I reach the end of a notebook and I get to start on another one. And originally, when I was writing Doris Ahoy, I bought 3 notebooks that all had a nautical theme, and I have got one that I never got to because I managed to fill the entirety of Doris Ahoy into 2 of them. I've switched over to that one and I have been working on Royally Doris. Well, I'd been working on Royally Doris for 4 days and that was going really well, and that's why I was going to do this writing vlog. Cut to Tuesday. I'd forgotten that that was the day my mum was going to be off work and I'd promised we'd do a jigsaw. And then on Wednesday, I wake up with a cold. Wednesday and Thursday of this week got thrown out of the window entirely for me, whilst I felt sorry for myself and sat in a corner and read. And I plan to do the same thing on Friday. Indeed, I might have done the same thing on Friday. Because Wednesday I finished the jigsaw. Thursday and Friday I sat in a corner and read. And then yesterday I sat in a corner and read as well. So I ended off my week with reading, which was fun. And I will talk about those books in my wrap-up whenever that appears. But I spoke to my sister about this because I've talked on here before how I think I'm something of the workaholic when it comes to writing. I feel like any moment I am not writing is wasted, and so I haven't allowed myself to watch films without writing in front of them. There's something about reading where I don't feel like that, but I feel that I do look at shorter books over longer books because it'll allow me more time to get back to the book. When I was doing this jigsaw on Tuesday and Wednesday, I reached this point where I decided it was a bit weird that I was so focused on being productive that I wasn't allowing myself the time to do something that I enjoyed. I saw a tweet of someone who I believe is on YouTube, and I can't remember who it is, so I apologise, who talked about forced downtime, where they refused to allow themselves to be productive one day out of the week. And I decided that I was going to try that. I mean, I suppose the cold did come along, and I said to my sister as well, I think that was my body telling me that I was a bit run down. Or I just had a cold. I refused to do work on Tuesday and Wednesday because I was enjoying the doing of the jigsaw. My mother was off as well, so we were both doing this jigsaw. We watched some films. After Steve Partridge mentioned Beetlejuice in his video, we watched Beetlejuice and some other films we got saved. We watched a bit of Miss Marple. There were radio plays going on. It was fantastic. I really appreciated these days. No writing got done, and the world didn't end. Ultimately, a lot of people who have followed my career as a writer, who are looking forward to other books, have been the most supportive and are always sending me messages telling me to take my time. I'm the one over here acting like there is no time to do anything other than write. I'm going to be the mildest bit arrogant for a moment, so I apologise already. But when I do sit down to write, I can tend to write a rather large amount quite quickly. I'm not saying that that stuff is good that I write, but I can do it. I have spoken before about the fact that I wrote the final 30,000 words of An Heir to Murder over 2 weeks. Because I have been so quick to write in the past, I think that it changes my own judgment of the work I am able to do. When I write quickly and I write badly, if I end up with 10,000 words at the end of the day, they could be the worst 10,000 words that exist from my writing, but I will immediately hold them up as this pinnacle of work done and say to myself, why can't you do this every day? As opposed to, this was just a fluke. It's like when you will have a more successful sale day at work as opposed to others, and immediately certain people in the offices who might not understand how a shop works will say, well, why aren't you making this much money every day? Where are your bigger money items? Why aren't they selling every single day? I think that I've been doing that with myself, with my writing and my output of my writing. But I think that I do need to change the way that I look at writing as the be-all and end-all, and maybe also think that I'm allowed to have interests outside of that, because most people would, and it's probably not healthy, the focus that I put on my writing. I should also say thank you to anyone who purchased a copy of An Heir to Murder this week. I am incredibly proud of An Heir to Murder. It is my favourite book that I've ever written. I adore the characters in there. That's not to say I don't adore the characters in the Doris books, I do. But I felt my most accomplished with An Heir to Murder. Most of my events got cancelled and I was feeling a certain type of way. I wasn't certain how to make the most of the situation of having all these copies at home. It might not seem like much when I have another job on the side, but writing is also something that I need to help me pay my rent, as Danny of Spinelli Speaks said. And so I put this tweet out talking about where people could purchase my books, and I put it on Instagram as well. A lot of you were supportive, a lot of you were nice, and you purchased my books. Very kind. And some people have been going into my website and purchasing them as well. Whilst the Royal Mail is working in the UK on time, in other parts of the world it transpires that there is something of the delay in the postal service, and items that I might have sent out a while back are still stuck in transit. I believe Jason of Weird Reads has experienced this, as well as a few others. I apologise on behalf of those postal services. I cannot control them. Once I hand over my parcels to the Royal Mail, I put the tracking information there and hope for the best. I wasn't going to create any videos because I feel as though my content recently is not very thoughtful. I know that this is a Woolgathering video, but I do put some thought into these videos of the stories I'm going to tell from my week, and also I enjoy the aspect of being able to chat about all the nonsense and the feelings that I am having. I have this worry that this is primarily supposed to be a booktube channel, and most of the time I'm not talking about individual books, I'm talking about all of the books I've read in a month, or pulling certain books off my shelves for a tag. And I felt as though I was something like the bargain bin of channels. Let's look at it this way. You have all of the big Marvel films. They're doing very well. And so then the Sci-Fi channel creates something similar, but different, that's a lot lower quality and very poorly acted and very poorly scripted. And I felt a bit like the Sci-Fi channel of BookTube. I felt like the discount off-brand shop. I felt like I was copying a lot of other people's ideas with tag videos and wrap-ups and all that, and not doing anything creative or new. And it doesn't mean that my content's going to change at all, because I'm still the bone idle northerner I was a fortnight ago. But I just like to remain conscious of what I'm doing, and I didn't want to feel like I was going through the motions of a month. And I feel like a lot of creators have these feelings. I realised I'd also developed this tendency of being somewhat sad in my videos and talking about bleaker aspects of myself, and I didn't like that. And so I thought, you know what, let's have this little tiny break. Plan to disappear until the middle of September. But then I had an idea and I thought, you know what, maybe this is it. So I'm not saying you're going to get anything original, because you won't. I'm not saying I'll be any less bitter. I'm not saying I'm going to go back to book hauls, because, oof, do you know how long it takes me to put enough books together to do a book haul? Too long. The answer is too long. It is too long. for me to create a book haul. Indeed, sometimes I acquire the amount of books that I think, oh, this is enough to talk about now, that I forget how long it's been, and I forget which books I've bought. And so sometimes you'll see a book haul off me. Half the books are missing, or 2 or 3 at least. And sometimes I've read them and talked about them, so I don't want to say, oh, look what I bought, because to me it's quite obvious I bought it then. And sometimes I feel like a book haul. I feel like one of them can end up leaving you feeling somewhat obligated to read stuff. And I like to unhaul, so I don't sometimes like showing people if I've bought something, because they might think, oh, well, he needs to read that now. And quite honestly, I'm still about 5 years behind everyone on The Mermaid and Mrs Hancock. And even that's the second copy. As in, I bought my copy second hand after giving my copy away to somebody as a gift. Do you know, I just thought of another story, and I wasn't going to tell this, but I realised a strange aspect of my life that I hadn't realised other people didn't have, so I need to talk about this in a strange way. I have always had a really large family. I've talked about it a lot in videos, how when I was younger, my nan's parents were still alive, and so were my great-grandmother's, well, 2 of my great-grandmother's sisters were still living. And when I was younger, our family was very much more close-knit. And so in the summer holidays, you could never be at home because you would be getting ferried around to all the various different family members that there were. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we would be at my nan's, as in my mum's parents. Then we'd have Thursday going and seeing one of my nan's great-grandmother's sisters. And then there'd be another day where we saw a different great-grandmother's sister. And obviously we saw the great-grandparents as well. Then you'd have days where we'd go and see my nan's cousins, who were also called aunties and uncles, because my nan had no siblings, but was very, very close to her cousins. And so by the end of the summer, I'd have acquired tons of stories. When my granddad died, my nan's husband, my mum's father, we'd always been very close. And when he died, I started going and spending every weekend at my nan's. I'd also spend half terms there on holidays. I went to visit my grandmother, and it's been a lot more limited since this whole pandemic thing happened. So I think I've seen her twice since March. My uncle and my cousin were there. Me and my nan were chatting, and we always chat. We're a bit like a pair of housewives. And my cousin didn't know who one of my nan's cousins was. A very close auntie who my nan has always treated like a sister. They were born, I believe, within 12 months of each other. We've always had Christmas presents off her. She's always called herself our auntie. And my cousin had absolutely no idea who she was. And I found it really weird. I have had this realisation that I probably know a lot of my family's stories. I wanted to capture that in my books, and the way my older family members would tell stories. Indeed, if I hear people speak in a certain manner, I will just smile because of the way they're storytelling. They could be telling the absolute most mundane of tales, but it's the telling that gets me. And I realised that, again, at 28, I have about 150 years worth of stories in me about my family. I feel like this has informed the way that I behave and I carry myself. And then I realised that I might be one of very few people in my family who's had this experience of being filled with so many stories. My cousin, who had received gifts off this other family member, had no idea who they were. I wondered whether, is it because his father, my nan's son, was a man, so didn't have to go round to all these family members like my mum did and to make sure they were okay and to check in on them. So my cousin only knows of his mother's side of the family. Well, and doesn't know any of our history. And also, am I going to have to be the person who now keeps these stories and makes sure that everybody knows them? Because I am also building my own history and my own anecdotes to tell to descendants. Probably not my own, because I've decided I quite like just being an uncle. Am I going to become the wizened old man in the corner with a story about everything? People won't remember the wealth of history I have about our family. Because to me, it's incredibly interesting to have all of these stories, and I feel like I have this closeness with relatives that are no longer with us. But my cousins and some younger relatives will never have those experiences that I had with these older relatives, nor will they have the stories that are there. It's something I've been thinking about a lot. This feeds into my last Woolgathering video and the last few videos, doesn't it, about me feeling particularly nostalgic, how I try not to live my life in the past, which is still true, and I still try not to focus on the future and just live in the present, and as I say, allow the past to inform me. But something just didn't sit right with me, that I should have these stories and these opinions of people. And like I say, some of them are living, and this cousin doesn't even know about his living relatives and is asking who are they. And I couldn't believe it, because when I was younger, the family was so close. It's a weird one. How about you? Are you close to your family? Do you have family stories that other people don't know about? Is it just me? Am I thinking too much into things? Probably. I'm not sure how I feel about having all of these stories and the possibility of the people that have told me these stories and who I can share humorous moments with regarding these stories of, people that I might have never met. But it feels weird that one day I will be the person left with the stories and not have anyone to share them with, because I worry that my family members won't be interested in knowing them. I then worry, what is that relative's perception of our family? Whilst I can admit that I don't think any family in the world is perfect, it's still something that I hold quite dear. And this can be biological family or found family. But I feel like any sort of family situation, whatever it is, there's a closeness and a protectiveness. And I feel very protective of these stories, and that I thought everyone knew them. And it's weird to think that I could one day end up being the last person who knows these tales. I will leave things there on a very beautiful maudlin note. That's it, basically. What have you been up to? Nice to see you. I hope you got something out of this video, and until next time, that is all.